Hello, everyone. This is Tommy, World at War Comics. Welcome to the podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Today, we're speaking to Jay Francois. But before we get into the interview, if you could do us a favor and give us a like, a share, and obviously subscribe, it really helps out the channel and allows us to continue to bring amazing comic book creator, writers, and artists. But Jay Francois, he is a writer and creator of a few different comic books that you could pick up at gumroad.com. Here's three of the comics that we spoke about today. First is The Alien Heroes, which is an all ages comic book, fantastic comic book. We do see this probably going into animation at some time. It's a great comic book that I think you'll have a lot of fun and you'll be able to share it with your entire family. Napoleon and the Machine. This is another comic book, more of a mature comic book. Currently working on issue number 2, which is almost done, and there will be a crowdfunding event for that. I'll put all the information in the subject line so that you could just click the links and go straight to them. And then lastly, we have My Brother Teddy. You might be familiar with this. It was actually done a few years ago and then picked up by Source Point Press. And Source Point Press put it into publication and printed that. Another fantastic comic book we hope that we get back to in the near future. But without further ado, here is my conversation with Jay. I hope you enjoy. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics podcast. We have another special guest today. We have Jay Francois. He is the writer and creator of several different titles, and we'll start to get into some of those titles here in a minute. But Jay, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, we got to kind of go back and forth through Instagram, I think about a week and a half ago, and you were kind enough to send me some of your titles. And man, you have some really good stuff. You've worked with some amazing artists. So I thought maybe we could kind of just jump in and talk about a little bit of your history in comics, where your passions lie from, and where they started in writing, all that good stuff. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I can take it as far back since I was born. I don't know. Watching like Batman animated series, Gargoyles, all those classics, Spider-Man.
Nice. Yeah.
But I'll rein it in for a bit because even on my own podcast, I go off tangents.
All good, my friend. All good.
So my first book, and I have them here just in case.
Excellent.
Book, My Brother Teddy.
Yeah.
I had the idea back in college. So I graduated college in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this picture, and I feel like you may have seen this picture as well. It showed like this little teddy bear, kind of like with a wooden sword.
Yeah.
And there's like this looming monster. Mm-hmm. Like it was just all over like the internet, and I thought I was like, that's a dope story. Like, why haven't I heard this? And then fast forward 2020, mm-hmm. My best friend moves to, well, not 2020, it was 2019. My best friend moves to Florida, and then I started getting into my feels, and I started writing this piece, and then 2020 hit, and I remember I hit up the artist that I worked with before, because he did some concept art for a Ninja Turtles script that I've written, and I would share that with you as well. It's one of my dreams to work on Ninja Turtles, but that's the story.
That'd be awesome.
So then, he was like, I don't have time, and then pandemic like hit us in 2020, and then he reached back out. He's like, hey man, I have time to like work on this project. And throughout all of 2020 and 2021, we're able to get My Brother Teddy out there. And at the end of that's when I hit up my best friend. I was like, hey, should I create a soundtrack for this? Because I didn't want it to just be simply a picture book, and there's no dialogue in there.
Right. Yeah.
And then I was just like, let's do it. And a friend of mine connected with me with Brianna Ware, who is the musician behind the piece or pieces. Mm-hmm. And she did an amazing job and brought it to the table.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So as far as My Brother Teddy, right? So you put the writing together, you work with the artist. I will tell you the way that it's laid out, it almost feels like there is words, because you certainly understand what's going on, and that connection between the teddy bear and I don't know the name of the young boy.
No name.
No name.
Just
yeah.
A young boy, or spoilers, the man.
Exactly. Yeah. At the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no name, but yes.
Yeah. But I mean, you could see that connection and all the different journeys that they took throughout all that time. And obviously at the end, it takes a little bit of a unique turn. And I'm not sure what happens because I haven't read it. Is there an issue two to that, or is that how it ended?
So no, so this was my first foray into like comic books. So like I for the longest time, so my dream is to be a writer director.
Okay.
But you know, where I work at full time at the Apple store. So it's just it
Uh,
takes me I don't have the luxury of filming or recording stuff. So I kind of pivoted towards comic books because
yeah.
at least there I can still do what you know the directing aspect, but
Sure.
I can hire an artist to kind of be my cameraman, gaffer, all these things,
Yeah.
and he does it or she does it, and I can like be at work when you know
Yeah.
my schedule's not consistent.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I never thought of making a book two until people got back to me. And then when I first self-published this, a lot of people wanted a book two, and then I re-released it with SourcePoint.
Hmm.
And you know, it's there's been ideas that float around in my head. I always share that,
Yeah.
and I've been telling people if I get into a different point in my life, I will kind of revisit it because I know there's a big world out there, especially with each layer. So the idea of hell in this book is just like
Hmm.
Dante's Inferno. So like
Yeah.
you can tell so many stories in each realm.
Hmm.
So I can see myself revisiting it. And the idea that I have you ever played Halo 3 ODST?
I mean, I played Halo. I'm not sure if I played Halo 3. I'm not a huge gamer, to be honest, Jay. I mean, I have a few games that I like to play, but
Gotcha,
I'm
gotcha.
really terrible at it, to be
It's
honest.
totally fine. So just brief explanation. In Halo 3, and this is like the spin-off called Halo 3 ODST, you
Okay.
play kind of like this side character who is a regular human, not a Spartan, and he visits places that have been like attacked already,
Hmm.
and he would find these items and kind of like it feels like a detective work. So it kind of does a flashback and you play that whole event
Oh,
up to the
okay.
present time. So I kind of want to do that
Yeah,
if
that'd
I
be
ever
cool.
revisit my brother Teddy.
Yeah.
But right now I want to focus on getting myself and my other works out there.
Yeah. Understood. Understood. Well, it sounds amazing. Like I said, the art is absolutely incredible. In
That's
that
thanks to
title.
the artist. Yeah,
Yeah,
he did a good
it's
job. He's
insane.
from Bulgaria.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's incredible art. And the change from just the teddy bear as the boy is laying there to the warrior is just next level, man. Just I
Yeah.
got
I
excited when I
always
saw
thought,
it.
yeah. And you know, I growing up, I always had a like a white polar bear.
Uh-huh.
And it wasn't a teddy bear, it was an actual polar bear.
Oh,
Like it was
gotcha.
in that
Okay, yeah.
shape. So it was on all
Uh-huh.
fours. And I always thought like it was really cool to see something. And then for him to draw something so cute and like with the
Yeah.
mad eyes going
Yeah.
into the closet, it's cute but cool at the same time. So
Exactly. Yeah. No, it was awesome. It was very refreshing. That's for sure.
yeah, I
That's for
appreciate that.
sure. Yeah, yeah. So that's your first forte. Where did this passion for writing and directing start in your life?
Ever since I was watching TV.
Yeah.
Old heads. When your parents would say, too much TV, blah blah blah. They try to ban you from TV. I think it kind of hit me when I think I got to fifth or sixth grade. I remember we had like an assignment, and I remember just creating this story. I forget it was about leprechauns. So it was around March, and then
Uh-huh.
I wrote like a script form, and I was like, oh, this is like what people do on TV. Because I for a long time I thought people lived in my TV set.
Sure, yeah.
So I was a
Absolutely.
dumb kid, right?
No, I
So
think
then there
every
was
kid thinks that.
right. So then, for the longest time, I always thought it was cool to see these stories play out on, the big screen or television.
Yeah.
So, in one of those assignments, I remember writing the script. I handwritten them because I didn't have a computer at the time,
Hmm.
and I just looked really cool. Like I would write the character name, and then I would say, "This is what the character says,"
Yeah.
and then I say, "This is what they're doing." And I was at a really young age when I discovered the power of storytelling, but I didn't know that's what I wanted to do
Yeah.
until I got to college. No, so I got to high school and then college. High school,
Hmm.
I got to flesh out more of like the creative aspect in one of my English classes.
Uh-huh.
And then in college, I was like, I want to do this. I want to write
Yeah.
or do something creatively. Um, and then writing, and ever since I graduated, I've had to carry this high school notebook with me where I wrote a lot of ideas on there.
Hmm.
And it's always with me. So it's always in my backpack when I go to work or everything like that. So I can always look back at it.
That's cool. You still have things in there that you would like to accomplish that you started in high school,
Yeah,
or
there's
have
a
you
lot of
kind of
dumb
moved
things
on
in
from that
there.
stuff?
It's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of dumb things in there, but there's a lot of things that I remember. There's a comic that I or comic idea that I have
Uh-huh.
in there that I wrote out. And then during the pandemic, thinking we had all the time in the world, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, let me write this story. I started writing the story,
Yeah.
and I wrote only 6 issues and then never went back to it. It's a story I do want to tell, but it's
Yeah.
like I should have kept going. So that comic book that I'm working on is going to be my long form story,
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
kind of like Saga, which I'm guilty of not reading the entire thing. I know a
Uh-huh.
lot of people love Saga, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's very popular. That's for sure.
yeah, for sure.
I think they took a break for a while too, and they just started back up not too long ago, right?
Yeah, I did hear about that.
Yeah.
I had so much time to read that.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things about being a creator writer, right? Is unfortunately, most of us that do that don't make enough money to do that full time, which means we have to have a job and then try and balance all that, the back
Yeah,
and forth, right? So it's tough until you get to a point, and I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but man, it'd be awesome to get there, right? To be able to
yeah,
live out that passion.
I agreed.
Yeah. So is the idea on some of your creations is to hopefully use that as a bridge into TV or film?
Uh, to answer that, I would say so. I got these here. So
Uh-huh.
in 2015, so this is the Alien Heroes, and
Yeah.
then this is issue 0, and then
Yep.
this is issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
2015, I you know reconnected with a friend from high school, and he's an entrepreneur now, so he does like his own stuff.
Uh-huh.
Um, but because of him, he wanted to like start this thing, and he wanted to tell a story about aliens, and then he literally told me day one. The next day, I just provided a script. I was like, "Hey, let's do this." And he's like, "Let's do something else." And then I just kept. So we spent a long time trying to create this thing, and it was initially supposed to be a cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
and you know things didn't work out because he was too focused on his stuff, and
Yeah.
it basically became my baby because these characters lived in my head. And
Yeah.
for the longest time, I was like trying to find animators, and for a kid that didn't really have money, didn't
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
job, animation costs a lot of money. And so yeah, the Alien Heroes has been within my head since 2015,
Yeah.
and it's just like this year I'm releasing them.
Wow.
And that I've pitched to. I remember there was I think it's called, I forget the company name. There was a lot. Like there was like Cartoon Frederator with Cartoon Network. I remember just like
Mm-hmm.
pitching it, and they passed on it because they were like they have something similar. And
Yeah.
I've had many iterations of the idea, so it's like
Mm-hmm.
changed us significantly. And then there was another company that Final Space.
Yeah.
The so the creator, Olin Rogers, he's one of my guiding lights too. Like
Uh-huh.
I've been following him since YouTube and since college. So
Mm-hmm.
to see him come from YouTube and create his shows is such a cool thing to see. So that means I can do it too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there was a company that worked with his initial YouTube video Final Space. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember going on LinkedIn and finding the CEO of that company, reached out thinking I wasn't going to get any connection. And then she responded, and then I pitched it there and passed on it. So this was
Yeah.
years ago.
Uh-huh.
And then fast forward, I went on LinkedIn. I got like a free pass at like the professional level of LinkedIn, where you have to
Uh-huh.
pay like $100 or something
Yeah.
like that. It was like a free 3-month trial. So I
Uh,
just every day was following anyone in Hollywood in animation, and then would reach out and say, "Hey, I have this thing." I give them the small blurb, and then wait. Out of all the people that did not respond, like there was no response, not even a pass, just no response. Only one person responded, and it was a guy from Nickelodeon.
oh wow.
He was like one of the producers there, and then he's like, "Yo, I usually don't take unsolicited messages, but this seems like a cool idea." And then from then on, I've had a direct line to these heads at Nickelodeon, and I've been pitching to them, and they've passed on it, but what I loved is that they gave me feedback. They could have easily passed and let me go and be
Sure.
like, we want nothing to do with you.
Right.
But they gave me the feedback, and I pitched to them like 3 times. And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sit on this. I'm gonna wait. And then one day I was like going through my old archives, because initially I remember I wanted to animate these, and I was like, why don't I just do comic books? Because I did it with my brother Teddy. I could do it with this.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's when I went on Upwork, or I forget how I found this guy. His name is Tony Tony Torado, but he goes by Ghoul's Room on his all his profiles, all his social media, and his work is great. Definitely, for anyone listening, definitely check out his work. He has cool stories that I can also see on Cartoon Network. People say they can see my work on Cartoon Network, but I can see his stuff on Cartoon Network. And then I connected with him, and I was like, hey, can you get these 3 vignettes that I had created, turn it into a comic book? Because I also had a storyboard for them. So I provided him with that too. So it's easy for him to just kind of go through it.
Right.
And lo and behold, I get this. And I can carry this around and give it to people and be like, hey,
absolutely.
So I'm happy at the way this turned out. And it's beautiful. Like I can never imagine this like years ago. And the fact that it dawned on me to just create into a comic book. And, as a writer with no illustrating skills, I am happy that I'm able to get this done.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So you have 0 and you have 1. Are you working on a number 2 or not at the time?
So right now that it's kind of getting ahead of myself. I'm working on my next project, issue 2 for Napoleon.
Okay, yeah.
So I plan on releasing or launching my Kickstarter at the end of the month.
Oh, perfect.
So I want to do that first, because the artist for Napoleon is also from Bulgaria. So in Bulgaria, there's a small community of comic book artists and colorists there, and they all know each other. So that's how I found out this guy. His name is Constantine, who, funny enough, is married to the colorist that did the colors in My Brother Teddy. So they all know each other. So I'm happy to be part of that team. Not even that my team, like part of this team. So Napoleon I'm working on launching that. But to answer your question, for the Alien Heroes, I am planning on making another issue, but it's going to be all self-contained in total of 5 issues. So including issue 0, total 6, because I want it to be a proof of concept. So when I do pitch again, I have this Bible with me.
Yeah.
And if I don't, and if I don't get any, any bites, then I might just continue it in another way. With the way Hollywood is going, I'd figure just give it to the masses that want it. But yeah, I can't wait for the next book. So I wrote all 5 scripts, and I keep wanting people to get to issue 4, because that's like my favorite. It deals with time travel, and then that's my thing.
Wow. So as far as the Alien Heroes, I really love the character development in those 2 issues. Can you talk about
really
how you came about on creating those characters? I think one was named Rim, Logan, right? So can you kind of talk about, there we go.
So Rim
talk about the character development.
So for the longest time, actually, it's funny, I have like the evolution of everything. So this is what everyone looked like back in 2015.
Exactly.
And so I didn't have a main character. That was one of the things that I had that Nickelodeon was like, we kind of want to have a character. They're like, we didn't want like a Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers kind of thing, which is funny enough. Nickelodeon has Ninja Turtles, but Ninja Turtles is a different story. Then I got feedback from like friends. They're like, I think you should make the main character black, because and I was like, I honestly was kind of fighting against it, because I wanted to just have like a mixed group here. But then that's when other people, like recently, I kind of like opened up to the idea, and I was like, like I've never, like sometimes when I start to make a main character, I was like, let me just pull from myself. And then Arby, the main character here, so he is a Martian, so he's not a human. For those listening, he's
you can tell how he sits on the couch, right?
And then, we got the and I don't even think in this one you do see him display his abilities. So I always explain to people that Arby, think of like a young Martian Manhunter who doesn't know anything. So that basically says that's all his abilities. So But yeah, I came up with these, and the way I see it is all the characters, all the dudes are
Mhm.
basically all my personalities at different points of time. So I got the stoic guy here who's just a samurai, which makes sense. And I love samurais and
Yeah.
westerns, but I'll get into that later. Rim, the weird and annoying one who's very loud. So there are times I can be loud, but
Yeah.
I'm more stoic and weird.
Yeah. Nice.
And then Ema, the Latina, when growing up, I grew up in so for those who don't know, I grew up in New York, Washington
Mhm.
Heights.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like a culmination of all the girls I couldn't get when I was younger or didn't want anything to do with me. So I
Yeah.
wanted her to be the strong female character on there. And there is a he likes her, but
Yeah.
it's not, I don't make it too forward where it's like gets weird because then I don't want it to be a romance. And I
Yeah.
don't like love triangles because I think that's outdated.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can see that he will do things for her, like for example, like in the book he's like, hey, can you fix my blasters? And she's like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want, blah blah blah. But nothing too forward, it's just you can see that it's there.
Yeah.
And then when I did the book, then I can hear the characters in my head, so it's like I know how they are, and I just go with it and I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
flow it out. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, I mean, it was great. I really enjoyed that too. Because the first zero, right? There's no verbiage either, right? It's just pictures, and then the issue two, which I was
Mhm.
surprised that that's a big change, right? There is a lot of content, so it was kind of nice because, like you said, when you're working with an artist, right, and you're not doing any kind of adding any kind of words, right? The
Yeah.
art really becomes extremely important to tell the story. But then I assume you had the exact same artists on issue one because they look
Yep.
exactly the same. But now we have some of the content that really highlights a lot of the uniqueness about each of the characters, which is really hard to tell in issue one. And actually, issue one was mainly just Rim, right? If I'm not mistaken, or
In issue one,
zero. I'm
oh,
sorry, in zero,
in
or is it
issue
Ima?
zero. Yeah, so in issue zero, it's three vignettes. So like I have them
Yeah,
split. So the
exactly. Yeah,
first Ema is the first one.
yep.
I like the idea of characters in like sitcoms sitting down, like Friends at the coffee shop, Seinfeld
Yeah,
at the diner, and um How I Met Your Mother at the bar. So
yeah,
I want to give them this place that exists in this fictional Washington Heights.
yeah.
I want them to hang out in a diner called the Native, and
The
then
native. Yeah.
the issue zero is about them getting to the diner at the
Oh,
end of the story. So there's no like spoilers. So you don't need to get issue zero to, but it's fun to have. I've had
sure.
people tell me that like they can feel the emotion or the they can understand each character in each issue. They're not just all bland. And
Sure.
one of my friends described that as loud, and I was like, okay, like I'm happy that they got that.
Yeah.
So like Ema, she gets up, she's just already mid run. She's running away from these mechanical aliens, and
Yeah.
she's just trying to get to the diner. And then I always tell people, if you pay attention in the last page,
Mm-hmm.
Logan's already in the diner
Mm-hmm.
because it's a silhouette because he's the early riser, so he's homeschooled by his grandfather, which you see in the second story.
Yeah.
Um, I always have fun telling people that his, well, not grandfather, sorry, his father is his
Mm-hmm.
foster father, so he's a black guy. But
Mm-hmm.
I base him off Forrest Whitaker's Ghost Dog. Yeah, so
Nice.
I wanted him to be that mentor and father figure for Logan.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he gets up, trains, and then he goes to school/work, and he's
Yeah.
just waiting at the diner before everybody.
Mm.
And then the last one is Rim and Arby together because he's the only one. Rim is the only one that knows Arby is a Martian
Okay.
because aliens are banned from Earth or
Mm-hmm.
not supposed to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, very cool, man. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad to hear that you might possibly go back to it because that was a really fun read.
Yeah, yeah. I really want people to see and hear what I'm trying to say with the story. I'm also doing my own self-discovery as well. I'm
Yeah.
Haitian, born here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to implement that with RB and try
Yeah.
to, share like the culture of my heritage with and kind of implement it in the Martian culture,
Yeah.
uh, and just show like what the people can be, because like for the longest time, and especially during, and a lot of stuff came during lockdown, especially with the George Floyd
Sure.
I don't want to say incident, but
Yeah.
that time period. And that's when I started learning more about my Haitian culture,
Yeah.
because I just started doing a deep dive. And I, for the longest time, I didn't have like self-love. And
Hmm.
then even for myself or for the country, because I didn't think we were enough, but only to find out we're the first country to abolish slavery
Yeah.
and be free in the Western Hemisphere, and to be, to be kind of vilified over time.
Yeah.
But there is a new uprising in showcasing the beauty in the country. So I want
Yeah.
to be a part of that. So my way is doing it this way, and then yeah, hopefully this becomes like an actual cartoon that people can
Yeah.
watch. And I want it to be for kids, so this is my more kid friendly
Yeah.
story. So yeah.
Yeah. Little different than Napoleon for sure. On the
Yes, it
violent
is.
side.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. I love it. I wish you all the best on that because I think that would be amazing.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get into Napoleon, right? From the
Yeah,
Machine,
yeah,
because that one was quite unique. Yeah. And where it does end, it does need another issue.
yeah.
So
So
I'm glad to hear you're working on that.
yeah, so Napoleon from the Machine. So main
Uh-huh.
character Napoleon here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I wrote this. So yeah, I was going through like a depressing state
Uh-huh.
back in 2017. The it was the summer of 2017. So like my mom, who I'm happy she's still alive,
Good.
she had to start using dialysis, but she
Okay.
wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
And you know, at the time I was dating this girl, so it wasn't working out. Fast forward, she's my wife now because we reconnected. So yeah, I'm married.
So it did work out eventually.
Yes, it did work out eventually, but that's the point of my story too. So I
Yeah.
wrote this in 2017 after like we stopped seeing each other, and I was concerned for my mom, and I was just, I say this in my Kickstarter too. Like I remember one day, she was there and I was home from work because I was working part-time at the time. And I popped in Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire version, and me and my mom were just hanging out in the living room watching it. And then there's a Aunt May scene where I think it's after Peter loses his powers, and
Mhm.
Aunt May is talking to Peter, and then that's when like it just hit me, and I was like, I gotta write something. I gotta write something right now.
Yeah.
And then I wrote all 6 issues, and it took me about a month to do,
Oh
and I
wow.
just knocked it all out. And then a friend of mine from work was like, "Hey, there is a comic book workshop that you can go to." So at the time I lived in Washington Heights, which is all the way uptown in Manhattan, and the
Mhm.
workshop was in Brooklyn.
Okay.
So I would go all the way to Brooklyn just
Wow.
for this, and I just really wanted to like perfect as much as I can from the story.
Yeah.
So just to explain Napoleon from the Machine, Napoleon from
Please.
the Machine is about a depressed, hero,
Hmm.
but he used to do his heroic stuff. So he uses abilities of drawing to manifest things into reality. So everything he draws comes to life, and then he has to kind of save the world from this global terrorist group that is the Angels.
Hmm.
They're kind of like the Angels kind of, to me, I always say, where I've never had the idea of where they came from, but as time goes on I have this weird fear, and I don't think it's weird fear because I'm sure everyone has a fear of Scientologists.
Yeah.
So that's where
Yeah.
the Angels came from.
Uh-huh.
And they're like taking over the world
Yeah.
while Napoleon is depressed for the last 4 or 5 years because
Mm.
his wife had passed.
Um,
And in issue 1 you can see, he has this caricature man in black, so I don't give him a name yet,
yeah.
who's just running around in the near vicinity of his neighborhood in Washington Heights, just beating up bad guys, making sure there's no trouble, kind of like just a silent guardian.
Yeah.
Literally silent guardian because he can't speak.
Hmm.
And then yeah, and then he's just trying to bring back his wife by drawing pictures, but he can't, because
Yeah.
that's one of the rules that I've implemented on there. You can't just bring back someone to life.
Hmm.
Uh, and then yeah, that is the story. And then I can't wait till people get to like the next couple books, because that's
Yeah.
what I want people to check out.
Well, there's another really important character, and that's the young girl that visits him almost daily.
Yes.
And her mom feels like she might be a little annoying for Napoleon. And in the way he responds, you could tell that maybe she is a little annoying, but there is a care there because he is allowing her to take things to read and bring them back. So it's she's like so innocent and she has such a good heart.
Yeah.
And then he kind of wants to open a door to her, but he also doesn't want to be bothered by anybody. So I think the way that he allows that relationship to continue is by allowing her to read comic books that are his, that she borrows and brings back. I don't know if I'm on the right track here,
You're
but
literally on the right track.
yeah,
Yes.
it's a
No,
unique
yeah, she
relationship, and you don't realize how much he cares for her until the end when tragedy strikes.
yeah. Yeah, initially I think, and that's another thing. So this is all 6 issues. And I
Mm-hmm.
think by the time in the middle of getting all these pages worked on, I realized I might want to tell another story with her that
Yeah.
takes place after where she's an adult.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, to me, she is the heart of the story. I
Yeah.
had to kind of revisit some pages and I had to insert certain scenes because I was like, oh, she's not here. Because it's all from the point of view of Napoleon.
Yeah.
But I really, and there are times I kind of do it like a movie or TV show where it's like I cut to what other characters are doing,
Yeah.
specifically her or what's going on
Mm-hmm.
with her. Because she is the important piece. Like if it wasn't for her,
Yeah.
the world would still just go
Yeah.
to crap. I don't know if I can curse.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, and even the artist was saying like as he's drawing her, he's having more fun and he's loving the character because like she's like 10, 11, 12, and she's
Yeah.
just doing things that she shouldn't as a kid. But
Yeah.
she's an avid reader about
Mm-hmm.
more comics, but she loves comics so much. It's like a lot of things about comic books, even for me growing up, and I'm sure you as well. There's a lot of bad things that happen, but then there's a lot of hope in comic books, depending
Sure.
on what you read.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and that's something that she brings to life,
Mm-hmm.
especially for Napoleon, who's just depressed and doesn't
Yeah.
want to do anything anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. No, amazing story so far. So this is what you're working on now is issue 2, and you have your Kickstarter that's going to happen. When will the launch of the Kickstarter be, or do you have a date
So
yet?
it will be August 30th, so the
August
last
30th.
week of. So I'm gonna have that running for 2 months,
Excellent.
and uh hopefully able to sign up and support. I really, because I did a Kickstarter initially for book 1, but that didn't work out, and then I
Yeah.
did an Indiegogo where that didn't work out either. But the cool thing about Indiegogo is I was able to keep the money that I accrued.
Yeah.
But honestly, all these books that I've had here are all out of pocket,
Yeah.
and my goal is next time it needs to be Kickstarter. So if people want more of these, this is how it's gonna work. Just
Yeah.
so I can save my money because I got bills to pay.
Sure.
And
Sure.
yeah, this I'm really stoked to share these stories.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you could tell. You could tell in your writing for sure that there's a passion behind it for sure. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, I think there was Tether. I saw something on a book called Tether at the
Oh
end of one of the
yes,
comics.
yes.
Yeah. So what can you
This
tell us what Tether is all about?
so
I saw it was
uh,
a bunny, some kind of
yeah.
like robot bunny maybe or something.
So yeah, so I want to do something different at the end. Oh, and I just wanted to mention that
Yeah, please.
there is in all my books except Napoleon, there is
Yeah.
soundtracks. So I
Yeah,
like to
that's
let people
awesome.
know. I kind of want to give people more than just books. Me growing up, I'm 30, so I grew
Yeah.
up in the 90s, and I'm sure you're aware, like in your library back in the day, where they had those like books with the cassette tapes.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to provide that.
That's cool.
And I do ultimately, when all of Napoleon is done, I want to create a soundtrack for that too.
Nice.
But yeah, Tether is so to kind of take it's kind of like cover stories. If you ever read One Piece in beginning of One Piece, there's always these cover stories that tells you
Mm.
side stories or like
Okay.
so that's what I want to do at the end. So Tether, it's not a title per se, but it's kind of like the connection.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um and I hired another artist to do that piece, but he's gonna look more cartoony
Okay.
in the actual Alien Heroes world.
Okay.
Because he shows up later in issue 4.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
And then so in book 2, I'm gonna introduce RB's sister as well.
Okay.
and I hope to use someone's likeness. I don't want to say their name out loud,
Yeah.
but there's
Yeah.
someone that I want to reach out to and ask about their, if I can use their likeness to create RB's sister.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, that story is, yeah, I had fun. I love space stuff. So
Yeah.
he is a bounty hunter, and if you are a fan of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I named
Yeah.
him Blondie.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, he's just basically a bounty hunter for this empire.
Hmm.
And in order to protect his home planet, he has to be a bounty hunter, like most of his people, or other planets that have bounty hunters as well. You're safe from being augmented, which is
Yeah.
basically turning into kind of like Borgs in Star Trek. I'm not too familiar with Star Trek, but that's
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
I know about from Star Trek. So kind of
Yeah.
like that.
Gotcha.
So he has to chase these artifacts or hunt down these almost extinct Martians.
Mm. Now, will this be so? This is going to be something that is an addition to the Alien Heroes, correct?
Yeah, at the end of each of the 5 books, there'll be one story of
Like a little short
a
story.
character, yeah, of a
Yeah.
character, and then um I may introduce I don't know, like maybe a side story or side, but for now, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, but for now, it's just to give people more, a little more, something a
Yeah.
little kind of an aperitif, but at the end.
Yeah. I was just saying, if it's a bounty hunter and you're writing a children's book, are those two things going to be okay being in the same book, or will it be kind of a toned down bounty hunter so that it would be good for kids?
Yeah, I couldn't say because like I've never lived in this time, but I could imagine when kids saw uh the first Star Wars when you had
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
wasn't too friendly, but then it's like you have lasers
Yeah.
and but the way I wrote him in issue 4, they're flying ships, so I love
Oh, okay.
space battles. So
Yeah.
he's chasing RB and his sister.
Hmm.
So it's just a space, I guess, space
Yeah.
chase.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's no like shooting or anything like that. There's like one moment where he's like aiming a rifle, and it's supposed to be a laser, but
Hmm.
it's not like I try to shy away from like hardcore violence. I kind of
Yeah.
want it to be like Kids Next Door. So the Alien
Sure.
Heroes,
Yeah.
it's Kids Next Door meets Men in Black. So I don't want to
Yeah.
be too on that. And it's weird because then I can bounce between,
Yeah.
My Brother Teddy, Alien Heroes, Napoleon, and it's like
Yeah.
but this is something I wish to see growing up, even
Yeah.
I don't know if you're ever a fan of Shaolin Showdown on Kids WB.
No, I don't. I'm not familiar.
It was like the main character is a little bald short kid, and then
Uh-huh.
you had the the guy from Texas who's earth, the bald kid is water, the guy from
Uh-huh.
Brazil is wind, and the girl is from Japan, she's fire. They're these
Oh,
like
okay.
Shaolin monks.
Uh-huh.
It was really cool. It's like
Yeah.
60 episodes, I think. If
Really?
you
Yeah.
ever
I
get
have
to
to check
find
it
it,
out.
it's probably on Amazon Prime, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you probably could watch it on YouTube. It's really good.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, Jay, I mean, what else have we missed in the conversation about all of your creations? I feel like we covered all of them. Is there another one that we haven't covered yet?
No, these are all, I honestly, this all took me 3 years to get done.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, this got, I'm like I have some, the only thing I can add to it is just I have variant covers that are supposed to be for, especially for My Brother Teddy.
Yeah.
I have variant covers as well. They're available on Gumroad as well. Um, one of them has the Haitian flag on it. So every time I sell one
Nice.
of those, half of that, and I've made that pledge out to the public. So half of that goes to a nonprofit organization that I've actually sent money to from when I went to my first con
Hmm.
a couple weeks ago. That was fun.
Oh, that's
And I've
awesome.
been telling people about this story and they gravitated towards it. Alien Heroes, I have one of my favorite covers that a lot of people gravitated to as well. It's Rim and Arby standing side by side. It's kind of like a Men in Black. It's a Men in Black
Uh,
homage.
yeah.
And I had this artist draw it. I don't have it here, but at the end
Yeah.
of each book, it tells you the cover artist who did the cover,
Yeah.
just
That's
to give them
awesome.
a shout out as well, because they deserve all the work, and I mean not the
Absolutely.
work, all the acknowledgement for the work. Uh, because without them, I would not have gotten these.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Yeah.
That's what helps bring it to life, right? Is
Yeah.
those
It feels
hardworking
really
artists.
good. It feels really
Yeah,
good.
absolutely, absolutely. That's incredible. So, which con were you at?
So the Tampa Bay Comic Con, my
Ah,
best friend lives in Tampa. So
nice.
and so that was one of our things because I remember saying, I was like, yeah, man, I kind of want to do a con because it's like doing things online, it's not personable. And then it's like I
Yeah,
feel like I'm not reaching people as much as I can.
yeah,
And I'm very timid when it comes to like being in large groups of people or large places or whatever. But even doing this, I've gotten used to like talking on camera, even posting stuff like with my face.
yeah.
Trying to get out of my shell on that. So it was like about a year ago. I applied for Brooklyn Con, but I didn't
Mm,
get in. And then I applied for in Tampa, and I told my friend, and he was like, "Hey, we should promote our podcast as well." So we have a
nice,
podcast called J and J where we do every week.
awesome.
And then I bought all the inventory, sent it down to Florida. So we always joke, but like realistically, I'm like, I have a warehouse down in Florida. I send all my stuff there, and then I just flew down there, and then all 3 days we just first time, and I'm just like, hey,
Yeah,
like here's my stuff, talking about my stuff, and it was cool. It was like very, very cool. And I want to do New York Comic Con as well. That was just
yeah,
kind of hard to. I don't even know when the applications went up for that, but I want to do
yeah.
it all. Yeah, it's
Well,
really
it's a
dope. I
big
had a
one.
lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big one. And I've never done New York Comic Con, but I'm in the grocery industry, and every year we go there for a big grocery event at the Javits Center. And the
Okay.
only terrible thing about New York is you walk everywhere, and if you're carrying a bunch of stuff, you're going to be really sweaty by the time you get there. Because I think
Yeah.
Comic Con, I think, is happening right now, if I'm not mistaken, or it just happened, or it's about to
Uh,
happen.
there's so many cons happening because I know so I'm going to New York Comic Con just
Oh,
as
okay.
like as a regular attendee, but
Yeah.
I don't know if any of the other cons because there was another con that happened. There was one in Texas. There was one
Mhm.
mega con was another one,
Yeah.
which I applied for because I was like, why not? And then
Yeah.
yeah, I just gonna apply to a lot of small events too.
Hmm.
There's one in New York called it's not a convention, but it's focused on indie comic books
Oh,
called
wow.
Mocha. So
Nice.
I definitely want to check that out and see if I can get more word out there.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it's great to meet other creators too, because then you could throw ideas at each other and who do you print with and
Yeah,
who's your letter, like little simple things like that, just to kind of build your portfolio because you never know. I mean, it's great to have a good artist, but sometimes
yeah,
you're waiting on artists and you got to have a backup plan, especially if you make commitments on a Kickstarter. So yeah,
yeah.
all that
So
stuff's kind of important,
no,
right?
agreed. So yeah, most of the, like so all of the so like with Napoleon issue 1, that was all through workshop. I remember, and this was in 2018. They were like, I think this is ready to go, but this is
Yeah.
2018, so I haven't. But none of my work is edited,
Hmm.
and I've been trying to find an editor to like edit because I don't want to continue on and then I have like a bad story.
No.
So, I think issue 1s are like my strong suit. I want to say I have this what's his name, J.J. Abrams feel.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want to just end it. I don't want to talk about Star Wars, but that was
Yeah.
not a good ending
Yeah.
for the sequel trilogy. But yeah, like I remember I found this guy and I asked for his advice. His name is Brian D. Covington. He has his own book called Between Magic and Dreams.
Mm.
And he's given me, I went to him for advice. I went to other people for advice that weren't specifically comic artists. They were just
Hmm.
painters and illustrators. And I was like, hey, what do you do at cons? What do you bring? I was concerned I had too little or I had too much. I think I
Yeah.
had just the right amount of inventory at cons.
Yeah.
And then when it came to like looking for letterers, I found one. Like I think I'm gonna just stick with him because I like
Yeah.
his lettering.
Yeah.
And I think I have a team. Like I even the musician I want to work with, she's like on standby. She's like, I can't wait to work on something else. And then I have another musician that I worked with for the Alien Heroes. He worked at Midtown Comics in
Oh,
Manhattan.
yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, hey man, would you be down to do some pieces for me? He was like, yeah, I would love to have my work in a comic. And I was like,
Yeah.
here we
There you
go.
go.
So yeah, it's kind of like me and my friend described when you are putting a movie together. It's like Ocean's 11. You get your team for a heist.
Yeah.
So I have that team now, and I just gotta execute my heist.
Yeah. Yeah. New York has so many amazing comic book creators and artists. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Will Torres. He worked for Marvel and he has worked for Dynamite, and now he's I call him the con king. He's literally every week at some con all
Oh
over the
wow.
Northeast. He's everywhere. But he's an awesome artist that you could use for. He does a lot of commissions and stuff and
Oh
does
nice.
covers. He's awesome. You know Newton Lalavos does
The
Dream
name
Fury
sounds
comics.
familiar. Say that again.
Dream Fury comics.
Yes, I
Um,
know that name. Yes.
yeah, he's Haitian.
I
And
think he follows me. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he
Yeah.
has an artist from the Philippines named Giancarlo, one of
Mm.
the best artists I've ever seen in my life. And he
Oh
does
wow.
grayscale. So it doesn't use color, but he uses grayscale. But I mean, grayscale is so difficult because even though it's just, black and white, there's so many different iterations of black and white, and it just
Yeah.
pops. So check him out. But he's in
I
New York
definitely do that.
too. I can't remember if he's in Brooklyn. I got to be careful with the boroughs. You don't want to say someone's from Brooklyn and from, right? But
I honestly, I have no problem with that. I know people do. I'm born and raised here, so I don't.
yeah,
I understand the beef, but then it's like I also don't understand the beef. I love
yeah,
everyone. I just don't care about
yeah,
Staten Island because no
yeah,
one
yeah,
goes there.
yeah.
But
That's the one thing probably everyone outside of Staten Island agrees with.
yeah. But no, I hear it. Like Dream Fury I've heard of, and yeah, like I want to say we've exchanged messages here and there.
Yeah,
But the other name, Torres, if I see like a face or something, I probably
yeah,
know who you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then I had another young man named Marcus Hardinon, and he has a new comic out, and it's about Haitian history, and it's absolutely incredible.
Is it the
Uh,
Toussaint one?
yes,
Yeah,
Toussaint.
yeah. So I follow him too. I have one, and that's another thing. You said it before. As a creator, you don't have time to. I have a lot of
Yeah,
indie
yeah,
books that I gotta read, and I'm
for
like,
sure.
I'll get to that when I can. But yes,
Yeah,
we spoken here and there. I've given him some advice, and
yeah,
I backed one of his projects. So
yeah,
when I finally get to read it, I'll read it.
yeah,
But it's that list. I
yeah.
one reason I connected with you too because I really want to get this into Godhood comics, and I watched that entire
Tyler.
episode. Yeah, and I've spoken to him too. I'm just waiting for like some sort of connection to talk about it. I
Yeah,
remember listening. I follow all his stories because I was like, it's very I don't want to say relatable, but I connected with his story and in all his interviews, and especially on this one. You asked really good questions. I've been following his work, and I was like, I like the questions you asked, and I was like, I really got to get him to like check this out, and then I really
yeah,
want him to see that. And because in Napoleon, no one knows that he is the person drawing and creating these characters
yeah,
or these miracles, as people say. So he's considered a god in this world, but they don't know it's him.
yeah,
And I thought it would be perfect to have this in Godhood Comics.
yeah,
That's like my thing. I really want to get that in there.
yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, Tyler's a
it's really
great guy.
cool.
Yeah, he's a great
It's
guy. I
really
know he's
cool
been
that
super busy, man. He's been in Hollywood because I think they're working on a TV series for the antagonist. So
yeah,
he's like in a
he's been
different
busy.
level now, man. He's beyond all of us now, man. But I'm
Yeah,
super
yeah.
happy for him. He really is a very nice person. And his comic, The Antagonist, if someone hasn't read that,
Yeah,
crazy good.
I'm trying to get my friend to read it. It's not that he doesn't care about it. Me and our podcast, we have this thing called the weekly wrap,
Uh-huh.
and it's what we're watching, reading, or playing. And
Uh,
he he doesn't read. Like he we
yeah.
say he's illiterate, and I'm always saying like, dude, you got to check out the antagonist because one
So
day
good.
we might have to interview this guy, and you need to know what he's done. So
So
I'm
good,
always
dude.
like, here, check it out, check it out, check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, that's why I love the indie comic scene, man. You get to meet people like yourself, Jay. It's such a neat community, and for the most part, everyone is very open to help one another out, and we're all trying to get stories out there, and you got to have a lot of support to do that. And I think some of the best stories in comics are coming out of indie comics right now.
Oh, 100% agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget. I was talking to some, it was a customer yesterday
Mhm.
that I was working with, and I was telling him like one of my friends, Brian, was saying like, if we can always help each other out in any small way, like I wrote a piece for him that he commissioned me to do for his book. So it's like it's in a way to kind of propel each other forward, no matter
Yeah.
how small it can be. And I'm trying to get in that place as well. Like I personally don't want to make a publishing company, because I think there's, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of publishing companies. I think if we can band together as indies,
Hmm.
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Because then it wouldn't just be DC, Marvel, Image, and IDW, but we can
Yeah.
have more.
Yeah.
Especially in the comic world, because I think when it comes to just simply books,
Yeah.
I want to say there's a lot of book publishers, and I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we can get bigger, and indie in all its platforms
Yeah.
is just rising, because especially with like the thing going on with Hollywood,
Yeah.
you could have been producing your own show on YouTube with no Hollywood connection and
Yeah.
still have this large following,
Yeah.
and people will still watch that.
Agree. Agree. Yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the things that's hurting Hollywood too in their ability to negotiate is there's so much happening now outside of Hollywood that's very entertaining. So there's this new kind of competition that you can't really put your hands on because it's a lot of independent people doing things through YouTube, Rumble. I mean, these platforms have given all these creators an avenue to be able to share stories. I mean, there's a new Spider-Man movie, a fan movie that came out that's actually pretty decent. And you're
Yeah,
like, wow, it's just getting better and better. They used to be very corny, and now
yeah.
they're getting to be like, this is not that bad, you know?
Yeah, I still have to check it out. I've seen the teaser or whatnot, but I
Yeah.
have to, it's, yeah, because when I initially saw like thumbnails of it, I was like, is this real? Like,
Yeah,
is
exactly.
this like a advertisement for the game? I was like, what's going
Yeah.
on? And yeah, like people are doing that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's incredible. There's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one coming too.
Is it there was like I follow the guy. He just released a little video of Leo.
Yes. And I mean, the animation is crazy.
Yeah, the first one was Donatello. I remember that. And
Yeah, yeah.
released that. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's
That's
like
pretty dope.
legit.
As for someone who loves Ninja Turtles, I'll breathe anything. I haven't really watched the new one
Yeah,
I would say it's for kids, but I love animation, so I'll
yeah,
sacrifice like my like I saw the new movie and it was really
yeah,
good. So if you can tell me a good story, and even if
yeah,
it's for kids, I'll still watch it.
yeah. Me too. Yeah,
So I'll definitely check that out.
we did see Mutant Mayhem, and I mean, it was awesome. I enjoyed it
It was
so
great.
much, and it
Saw it
was.
twice in a week.
Did you? I mean, the comedy in there is so good and spot on, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought because I saw the animation. I go, okay, that's a unique style of animation that I'm not used to.
Yeah.
But I love Ninja Turtles too, so I'm like, well, I'm going to try it out. And I took my wife, who just thinks I'm ridiculous in my passion for comic books. She doesn't get it. So I took her, and then my oldest daughter, who does kind of get it. So she doesn't read comics, but she loves comic book movies,
Got
like
it.
especially like the Marvel stuff. And so we three went to the movies and watched it, and every one of us absolutely loved it, mainly because of how relatable it was, how funny it was. I mean, the comedy was just next level. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you're a Ninja fan, you're gonna love this.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, and just to kind of go back on the animation, it's this nice blend of computer animation and
Yeah,
the classic drawing, like with into the it's like
yeah,
it's that type of idea. It's really good.
I
Um,
agree.
even though like some of the characters look wonky, because one of my favorite Ninja Turtles, like I grew up in the 90s. I had Secret of the Ooze on VHS, even though it's not like a fan favorite. I
Yeah,
watched that as a kid, so there's nostalgia there. But I know the
sure.
1991 is great. But my favorite is the 2012 cartoon,
Mm,
because that one kind of says that everything Ninja Turtles is all connected, in the
yeah,
sense of like you go through different portals and then you can go back to the 80s or the 2003 version. And it's a dope story. It's five
yeah.
seasons, and the story gets more mature as the
Mhm.
season goes. And that's what I always tell people. I'm like, don't ever judge a book by its cover. Cause like
Yeah,
initially I saw it and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. And I stuck with it, watched it every week when it came out, and I'm actually currently rewatching it for the third time.
yeah,
And it's so good. And I may give the new one a chance, but I might
yeah,
start with the movie because
yeah,
animation looks like anime. And I
yeah.
just love that.
Yeah,
So
that's
like,
awesome.
why not?
Yeah,
It's
why
really
not,
good.
right? That's so cool, man.
But yeah, it's really
Yeah, yeah. A lot of good stuff going on for sure. Have you read The Last Ronin by
yes.
IDW?
Oh yes, I have.
That's so awesome.
I read that, but I was a little upset. So speaking of, so the story I told you, I wrote a spec script
Yeah.
back in, I want to say it was 2017. Actually,
Uh,
this was before I wrote Napoleon. This
oh,
was me experimenting with the idea of writing comic books because I thought I had to be in the industry to write comic books, but then
right.
I was just like, I'm gonna write one anyway,
Yeah.
and all I knew was Ninja Turtles. So I wrote a 6 issued story on the Ninja Turtles, but taking place after kind of like when they're not teenagers. So they're at the cusp of like the 20s. So it's like,
Yeah.
but and I can send them to you like off air, like what, so you can check it out.
That's awesome.
So it it's basically each turtle how their reaction is when everyone else is dead.
Mm.
And seeing fast forward, seeing Last Ronin, I was like, oh, I'm never gonna get my chance. I was like, I'm never gonna get my chance. But
Yeah,
my thing about that is you can still write a Ninja Turtle story and they can still
absolutely.
publish it because it's not the main line, which that's part of my story. It's not the main line,
Yeah, yeah.
but it just tells this idea. And I haven't read Lost Chapters yet, which I'm
Okay.
probably gonna let it finish.
Hmm.
But in there, I know there's like these new turtles where
Hmm.
for me in my story, it's I have 3 humans training under Splinter,
Ah,
and I kind of make homages to like Herbie, like Jack Kirby's like kid, or Kirby in the Ninja Turtles world's kid.
yeah.
I have like a Splinter blind, kind of
Mm.
like a nod to Daredevil, which is kind of like a meta nod.
That's awesome.
And the artist who did My Brother Teddy drew those pictures for me.
No way. That's so
So I
cool.
had him draw. It was like a birthday gift to myself. I had him
Yeah,
draw these pictures, and I'm like, I'm gonna save these. And
yeah.
one day I get kind of my foot into Nickelodeon or IDW. I'm like, hey, I have this. Can we publish it?
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll see Kevin Eastman at one of the cons coming up, and you could talk to him about it.
If he'll give me the time of day, because
Yeah,
he's
I
up
know.
there now.
No, he's up there, and I'm sure everybody comes to him with different ideas and stuff.
Yeah,
But
I don't
he's a
want to be that
I
person.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I got to meet him for a brief second at San Diego Comic Con this year.
Oh,
He was at
nice.
the Whatnot booth,
Oh, nice.
signing issues for Whatnot. So um, yeah, it was like hi, and I bought a book, so it wasn't that big, but
It.
um,
I know the feeling.
it's so
I do.
awesome to meet someone that has created something that you. Yeah, look at that. Exactly.
It was the same thing.
Exactly.
The stay here, Stanley. I had a mental conversation with Stanley. I
Yeah,
spoke no
exactly.
words, and funny enough, I feel like we had a conversation in our dreams, and I'm a
Yep.
hope. I don't even know what it was about. It was about anything. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
staying with me. So I know
Love
the
it.
sentiment.
I love it. I love it. That's so awesome, man. Well, Mr. J, I can't tell you how much I appreciate meeting you and coming on. We should do this again, man. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, we're here to help you any way we can with the Kickstarter. So if you could send me all the information, I'll make sure that we start plugging out on all of our social to get as many people to get eyeballs on that
I
Kickstarter.
appreciate that.
I'm looking forward to that issue number 2 of Napoleon and the Machine. So can't wait to read that and find out what happens next. There's a lot at the end that left me hanging, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And man, just thank you. It's been a lot of fun, my friend.
Yeah, thank you, man. I love talking about my stuff. I'm again, this is helping me be more open to talking to more people.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, that's important, right? Because there's an element of sales in everything that we do, right? We got to be able to sell the story to
Yeah,
somebody to see if they can't pick it up. So, but yeah, nah, you did awesome, man. The comics are great. And you could count me in as being one of those supporters for your Kickstarter, man. I
I
can't wait to
appreciate that,
read
man.
the
Thank you.
second edition.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, right on, Mr. J. Thank you for joining. And man, we'll stay in touch, okay?
Yes.
All right, my friend. Thank you.